had taught her that kindness was a shield, an anger, a self-inflicted wound. Adana only saw this forest. The ancient trees felt like wise old friends, their leaves whispering secrets of resilience. The birds sang songs of hope, and the river for the steady strength wished she possessed. It was in this magical place that she felt, not for the poverty that clothed her, but for the gentle was. One day, news swept through the village like a harmattan wind. The handsome Prince Adebayo, son of the great king, was searching for a bride. He was not looking for wealth or status, Answer declared, but for a heart of pure gold. He would be hosting a grand festival. Maiden in the kingdom was invited to present him with a gift that represented her truest self. With excitement, Chidinma and Abel were in a frenzy. I will present him with the rarest blue diamond from our father. Chidinma announced, show him the depth of my love. Abel scoffed, a mere stone. I shall weave of pure gold thread, depicting his greatest victories. That will show him my skill. They spent weeks preparing, their house filled with smiths and weavers, their laughter even more arrogant than before. They saw Adana by the market and taunted her. What will you offer the prince? A bundle of sticks. His heart sank. What could she possibly offer a prince? She had no jewels, no gold, no silks. She felt a familiar despair creep in. That evening, her tears watering the roots of Aunt Baobab. As she wept, she didn't know it. Wise eye from the branches above. It was an old face, a map of wrinkles. Her smile, gentle. Tears are for watering seeds of hope, not for drowning them, the old woman said, her voice like the rustling of leaves. Adana startled, looked up, climbed down with surprise. I have heard your silence, Adana. You have a gift far greater than any jewel or tapestry. I have nothing, Adana whispered, her voice hoarse. You have kindness, the old woman replied, her heart. She then handed Adana, small, brown, a seed from the sun, a tree that fruits only once every 100 years. It's fed to hold this and good deeds. This seed. Nurture it with the water of your kindness and the warmth of your spirit. Be your gift. Was skeptical, but the old woman's eyes held a deep, ancient wisdom she couldn't ignore. She took the seed, thanked the woman, her small hut. She planted a pot, watered it, and sang to it the lullabies her grandmother used to sing, telling it stories of our dreams and our hopes. While Chidinma and Ebel were busy with their lavish gifts, Adana was pouring her soul into this tiny seed. To her astonishment, the seed sprouted overnight, a small green shoot through the soil. Each day grew at an impossible rate. The leaves were the color of emeralds. A single full flower bloomed, its petals shimmering with all the colors of the dawn. The entire village watched in awe as this magical plant grew on her windowsill. Chidinma and Ebel dismissed it as strange witchcraft, consumed by their own preparations to truly. The day of the festival, the palace grounds were a kaleidoscope of color and sound. Maidens from all corners of up, each holding a magnificent gift. Chidinma presented a diamond, which glittered under the sun. The prince, politely. Ebel unveiled her stunning golden tapestry, a masterpiece of craftsmanship. The prince offered a gracious smile. One by one, the maid, but a shadow of disappointment in his eyes. Then it was Adana's turn. She walked forward, her steps hesitant. She wore her dress, but it was clean and mended with care. She held the small clay pot. On the plant, flower had been. Now hung a single, perfect. It glowed with a soft, golden light, radiating a warmth that could be felt by everyone nearby. Its scent was intoxicatingly sweet, a mix of sunshine and fresh rain. A ripple of laughter. "A mango?" Inma shrieked, doubling over with laughter. "She brings the prince a single man," Ebelj pointing a mocking finger. "The orphan has truly lost her mind." Adana's cheeks flushed with shame, and her eyes welled up and to run. But then she looked at eyes were not filled with mockery. They were wide with wonder. He stood up from his throne and walked down from the crowd. "Silence!" the prince commanded. His voice ringing with authority, died instantly. He stood before Adana, his gaze fixed on the glowing fruit. "Tell me about this gift," A sighed softly, his voice. Finding her courage, Adana spoke. She told him about forest, and about how she nurtured it with songs and stories. She didn't speak till she faced. She only spoke of the kindness she was taught and the hope she poured into the plant. "It is all I have to give, Your Highness," her voice trembling, grown from the heart. Prince reached out and gently touched a warm, peaceful energy seemed to flow from it. He then looked directly into Adana's eyes, and for the first time, she felt truly seen. He saw the kindness, resilience, or unblemished spirit that the others had been too blind to notice. "You have brought her of all," Prince Adab, his voice resonated in the silent courtyard. "Other maidens have brought me things that can be born or crafted by hand, but you have brought that can only be grown. You have shown me your true self. A heart of pure gold." He took the pot and then, shock of everyone, he took her hand in his, faced the stunned crowd. Chidinma and Ebel's faces frozen in disbelief. "Queen," the prince announced, "I have been searching for." A thunderous cheer erupted from the people. Adana, the orphan girl, was chosen not for riches or beauty, but for the richness of her character. She learned that day that truth is not measured by what you have, but by the goodness you cultivate within your own soul. And as she stood by the prince, a single, knowing look from the crowd caught her eye. A woman from the forest, who gave her a slow, proud wink before disappearing back. Adana's new life had just begun, a life where kindness was finally her crown. In a vibrant village, nestled at the foot of the great Kilimanjaro, lived a young girl named Amara. Her spirit was as bright as the morning sun. Orphaned at a young age, lived with her cruel stepmother and two stepsisters, Zola, who were known throughout the village for their vanity and arrogance. Their family was wealthy, but Amara no better than a servant. She wore rags, ate scraps, and her bed was a thin mat on the... Zola and Kenna spent their days preening themselves, adorning their hair with gold beads and wrapping their waists in the finest kente cloth. Mock Amara, her covered in soot. Zola would sneer. "Even the goats look cleaner than you, Amara." And they would both erupt in cruel laughter. Amara had, instead, in the small garden behind their compound, where grew sweet yams and coloring to the birds and butterflies as if they were her only friend. A royal messenger arrived in the village, his voice booming like a drum. Here, the heir to our great kingdom is a wife. A grand festival will be held in 3 days' time. Notable maidens in the land are invited to attend. The news sent a jolt of excitement. Every maiden dreamed of catching the prince's eye. Zola and Kenna were beside them. "The prince will surely choose one of us," practicing a most charming smile in a Polish. "Mother, we need new, the finest kids." Kenna demanded, their mother eager to see one of her daughters become queen. Amara's heart fluttered with a secret hope. She dreamed of going to the festival, not to win the prince, but just to a night of music, dancing, and joy, away from her dreary life. Timidly, her stepmother. "Mother," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "may I also attend the festival?" Her stepmother and stepsister stared at her as if she had grown a second head into laughter. "You?" Her stepmother scoffed. "In wags, you would bring shame upon our family. Your place is here, scrubbing the floors and tending the fire." Zola and Kenna chimed in. "The prince would faint at the sight of you." Long. A little ash girl. Defeated, Amara retreated to her garden. Tear-dusty cheeks, profound sadness, a loneliness that seemed to seep into her very bone. As she wept, a gentle voice started, "My child, why do you cry?" Amara looked up to see an old woman with kind eyes, her face etched with the wisdom of many years. She was the village elder, a woman said to possess ancient magic. Amara poured out her heart, telling the old woman about her cruel family patiently, then smiled. "Tears will not get, little one, but courage and a kind heart might." She handed him a small cowrie. "This in your garden," she instructed. "Water it the water from the ancient baobab tree, and believe in the spirit." Though confused, Amara did as she was told. She planted a shell, fetched water from the distant baobab, and whispered her hopes into the soil. The next morning, planted stood a magnificent gown from moonbeams and starlight, shimmering with all the colors of the dawn. Beside it, candles made of pure gold and a necklace of dewdrops that sparkled. On the night of the festival, as her step-family left in their finery, Amara bathed in him, dressed in garments, and made her way to the palace. When she entered the grand hall, a hush fell over. No one recognized the stunning maiden. Her beauty, it outshone all the jewels and silks in the room. Prince Ain, politely greeting guests with a bored expression, stopped in his tracks, his eyes locked with a moss, and he was captivated. He walked directly, passing all the other maidens, including a few Zola and Kenna. "I have never seen such grace," he said, his voice filled with awe. "May I have this day?" Amara, shy, but filled with a newfound confidence, nodded. They danced, and it felt as if they were the only two people in the world. They talked and laughed, not just by her beauty, but by her wit, her kindness, and in her eyes. As the first light, Amara knew she had to leave before her step-family returned. "I must go," she whispered, pulling away. In her haste, one of her golden sandals slipped off her foot. The prince picked it up, but she was already gone, disappearing into the dream. The next day, the prince was distraught. He was to find the mysterious maiden who had stolen his heart. He issued a royal decree. He would marry the girl whose foot fit the golden sandal. He and his royal guards traveled from village, house to house. When they arrived at Amara's compound, Kenna nearly trampled each other to be the first to try on the sandal. Zola squeezed and pushed, but her foot was too wide. Kenna grimaced and grunted, but her foot was too long. Their mother even suggested cutting off a toe, but the guards looked on, unimpressed. "Is there any other maiden?" the prince asked, his hope dwindling. "No, your highness. The stepmother, a servant girl. Nothing but Hustin." One of the guards who pound spotted Amara in the garden. "What about her, eh?" Kaid out the protest, but Prince Amara was brought forward, still in her simple clothes. She shyly stepped her foot into the golden sandal. It was Zola, Kenna, and their mother gasped in disbelief and horror. At that moment, the village appeared. She smiled and placed her hand on Amara's shoulder. In a flash of light, Amara's rags transformed back into the magnificent festival. Everyone finally understood. Prince Said's face broke into a joy. He knelt before Amara. I have found you, sighed softly. Will you and fill the palace and kindness? With tears of joy in her eyes. Yes, her stepmother and stepsister, humbled and shamed, could only watch as they put Amara onto his horse, as they rode towards the palace to begin their new life. Amara looked back at the village sadness, but with the quiet who had turned her action to her own. Her story became a legend, a reminder that all that true worth lies not in wealth or beauty, but in a kind and resilient heart. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. See you next time. In a small village nestled among rolling hills lived a girl named Amara, an orphan. She was raised by a distant aunt, like a servant and a niece. Amara's days were long and filled with hope. From sunrise to sunset, her clothes were patched, her hands were calloused. Friends were the birds she sang to in the fields. In the same village lived 3 sisters, the daughters of the wealthiest merchant. They were known for their glittering jewelry and their cruel laughter. Whenever they saw Amara, they would point and mock her. Look at the field mouse, one would sneer. Her dress is made of rags. Another would cackle. She probably sleeps with the goats. Then they would all laugh, their voices like a heart. Amara never said a word. She would simply lower her head, her heart aching with sadness, and hurry away. She would look up at the moon and stars, tears silently tracing paths on her dusty cheeks, and she would whisper a prayer for kindness. Wouldn't feel so alone. One day, a royal messenger arrived in the village with a grand announcement. A kind wise man was seeking a bride. He was not interested in wealth or status. A woman with a pure heart and a kind spirit. To find her, he would host a great festival. Every maiden in the kingdom was invited to attend and present the prince with a gift that truly represented who she was. The news sent a wave of excitement through the village. The 3 rich sisters were that they spent a fortune on new silk dresses, gold perfumes. For their gifts, they commissioned the finest necklace of dazzling diamonds, another a crown of woven gold, and the third a statuette carved from pure ivory. The prince will surely choose one of us. Anyone who would listen. Amara heard the news while scrubbing the floors. Her heart fluttered with a tiny spark of hope. She, too, dreamed of going to the festival, but her aunt quickened that dream. Go to the palace, she scoffed. In those rags, what could you possibly offer the prince? Dirt. The 3 sisters and burst into their usual cruel laughter. Heartbroken, ran to her favorite river, a quiet place shaded by an old baobab tree. She sat and cried, her tears mingling with the flowing water. She noticed a tiny, injured bird at her feet, being twisted at an odd angle. Forgetting her own sorrow, Amara gently scooped up the little creature. She found a soft leaf to wrap its wing and fed it a few wild berries she had saved. She sang a soft, soothing melody, the same one she sang when she was sad. She cared for the bird, sharing meals and protecting. Slowly, the bird healed. On the morning of the festival, as Amara was about to release it, the bird suddenly transformed before her very eyes into a shimmering and radiant smile. Of the forest, she said, I have seen your pure heart and your unending kindness. Amara waved her hand, and the rags turned into a stunning dress woven from moonlight and river reeds, adorned with dewdrops that sparkled like diamonds. On her feet were sandals made of soft. Your gift, the spirit said, placing a single picked wildflower in Amara's. Flower only blooms where true kindness is found. It is a reflection of your own beautiful soul. With a grateful smile, the spirit leaving Amara in stunned silence. Hesitantly, Amara made her way to the palace. The guards, seeing her elegance and quiet, her pass without question. She entered the grand hall, which was filled with lavish gowns, all clamoring for the prince's attention. The rich sisters were there, preening and showing off their extravagant gifts. When they saw Amara, their jaws dropped. They sneered. "And what is that weed she's holding?" One by one, presented their gifts to the prince. He accepted the diamonds, the gold, and the ivory with sea, but his eyes remained thoughtful, searching. Finally, it was Amara's turn. She walked forward, her heart pounding. The crowd whispered, laughing. The three, certain of her humiliation, Amara knelt before the prince and presented the single wildflower. "Your Highness," her voice soft but clear, "I have no gold or jewels. It is a simple flower, but it grew from an act of kindness." Prince took the flower. As his fingers touched it, the blossom began to glow with soft, warm light that filled the entire hall. Proud, a gentle, sweet fragrance enveloped them all. The prince looked up from the glowing flower in Amara's eyes. He saw no greed or ambition, humility, and a deep, profound cut shone brighter than any diamond. A genuine, heartfelt smile up and took him, helping her to her feet. "I have seen countless today," he announced to the astonished court, "but you are the first person to offer me a true treasure." He turned to him, his voice filled with admiration. "You're the greatest of them all, for it comes from a pure and beautiful heart. Will you, bride?" Tears of joy streamed down him. She nodded. The hall erupted in cheers. The three rich sisters could only stare, their expensive gifts seeming dull and meaningless in the light of Amara's simple flower. They had learned a harsh lesson that day. That is not measured by their wealth or their clothes, but by the richness of their heart and the kindness they show to others. Amara married, and she became a beloved princess, known throughout the kingdom for her compassion and grace. She never forgot where she came from, always from the highest noble to the humblest servant, with the same kindness that it warranted. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more in the world. See you next. In a small, sun-drenched village nestled between rolling lived a young girl named Dana. Was an orphan, her heart as kind as the morning sun, but her life was anything but bright. The other girls in the village, especially the daughters of the Chidinma and Ebel, were with scorn. They would parade in their fine silks and glittering beads, their laugh like cruel bells whenever Adana passed by in her simple look. The little mouse skirt, Chidinma would sneer, flicking her wrist at bracelets. Does she think her into riches? Ebel would add, her voice dripping with mockery. Adana would simply lower her gaze, spirit heavy, and continue on her way to fetch water from the river or gather firewood from the forest. She never retorted, for her grandmother had taught her that Adana's only solace was the forest. These felt like wise old, their leaves whispering secrets of resilience. The birds sang songs of hope, and the river flowed with a steady strength she wished she possessed. It was in poverty that clothed her, but for the gentle soul that she was. One day, news swept through the village like a harmattan wind. The handsome Prince Adebayo, son of the great king, was searching for a bride. He was not looking for wealth, the royal announcer declared, but for gold. He would be hosting a grand festival, and every maiden in the kingdom was invited to present him with a gift. The village buzzed with excitement. We're in a frenzy. I will present him with the rarest blue diamond from our father's collection, Chidinma announced. It will show him the depth and value of my love. Ebel, a mere stone. I shall weave a tapestry of pure gold thread, depicting it. That was my devotion skill. They spent weeks preparing, their house filled with the sounds of weavers. Their laughter even more arrogant than before. Saw Adana by the market and taunted. You offer the prince, little orphan, dirt, a bundle of sticks. Adana's heart. What could she possibly offer a prince? She had no jewels, gold, no silk. Felt a familiar despair creep in. That her tears watering the root of the tree. As she wept, she didn't notice a pair of bright, white watching her from the branches above. Her face a map of wrinkles, her smile gentle. Tears are for watering seeds of hope, little one, not for drowning them. Her voice like the rustling of leaves. Adana, startled, looked at the woman climbed down with surprising agility. I've heard your silent prayers, Adana. You have a gift far greater than any jewel or tapestry. I have nothing. Her voice hoarse. You have kindness, the old woman. You have the magic of this forest in your heart. She then handed a single brown seed. This is a seed from the sun-kissed mango tree, a tree that fruits only once every 100 years. Its fruit is said to hold the sweetness deep. This seed. Nurture it with the water of your kind warmth of your spirit. What it becomes will be your gift. Adana was skeptical, but his held a deep, and she couldn't ignore. She took the seed, thanked the woman, and returned to her small hut. She planted the seed watered it, and sang to it the lullabies her grandmother used to sing. She spoke it, telling a forest of hymns, while Chidinma and El were busy with lavish gifts. Adana was poor soul to this tiny seed. To her astonishment, budded over night, a small, vibrant green shoot. Each day, it grew at rate, the leaf emeralds. And soon, a single, beautiful, shimmering with all the colors of the dawn. The entire village, as this magical plant grew on her windowsill. Chidima and Ebel dismissed it as strange witchcraft, too consumed by their own truly understand. The day of the festival arrived. The palace grab of color and sound. Maidens from all corners of the kingdom lined up, each holding a magnet. Chidinma presented her diamond, which glittered. The prince nodded politely and veiled her stunning tapestry, a masterpiece of craftsmanship. The prince offered a gracious smile. One maidens presented treasures, but a shadow of disappointment lingered in the prince's eyes. Then, it was Adana's turn. She walked forward, her steps hesitant. Dress, but it was clean and mended with care. She held the small clay plant, where the magnificent flower had been, a single mango. It glowed with a soft light, radiating a warmth that could be felt by everyone nearby. Its scent was intoxicatingly sweet, a mix of sunshine and fresh rain. A ripple of laughter. A mango? Chidinma shrieked, doubling over with laughter. She brings a single mango, pointing a mocking finger. The orphan has truly lost her mind. Adana's cheeks flushed with shame. Her eyes welled up to run. But then, she looked at the prince. His eyes were not filled with mockery. They were wide with wonder. He stood up from his throne and woke her, ignoring the gasp. Silence, the prince commanded, his voice ringing with authority. The light died in. He stood before Adana, gaze fixed on the glowing fruit. Tell me about this gift, softly, his voice kind. Finding her courage, she told him about the old woman in the forest, about the seed, and about how she nurtured it with songs and stories. She didn't speak of her poverty or the cruelty she faced. She only spoke of the kindness she was taught and the whole land. "It is all I have to, Your Highness," she finished, her voice trembling. "It is a gift from the heart." The prince reached out and gently touched a leaf on the plant. A warm, peaceful energy seemed to flow from Adana's eyes, and for the first time truly seen, he saw the resilience and the pure, unblemished spirit that the others had been too blind to notice. "You have brought me the greatest treasure of all," Prince Adebayo declared, his voice the silent courtyard. "Other maidens have brought me things that can be bought with gold or crafted by hand. But you have brought me a gift that can. You have shown me your true self of pure gold." He took the pot from her hands, and then, to the utter shock of everyone, he took her hand in his. Chidinma and Ebel's faces frozen in disbelief. "Found my queen," the prince announced. "I have found the heart I have been." A thunderous cheer erupted from the people. The poor orphan girl was chosen by the prince, not for riches, but for the richness of her character. She learned that day that true worth is not measured by what you have, but by the goodness you call soul. And as she stood by the prince's side, a single, no in the crowd, her eye. It was the old woman from the forest, who gave a proud wink before disappearing back into the throng. Adana's new life, a life where her kindness was finally her crown. In a vibrant vessel at the foot of the great Kilimanjaro lived a young girl named. Her spirit is the morning sun, but her life was shrouded in sorrow. Orphaned at a young age, she lived with stepmother and two stepsisters, Zola and Kenna, who were known vanity and arrogance. The family was wealthy, but Amara was treated no better than a servant. She wore rags, ate, and her bed was a thin mat on the kitchen floor. Zola and Kenna spent their days preening them, adorning their hair with gold bead waists and the finest kente cloth. They would often mock Amara. "Look at her, covered in soot." Zola would sneer. "Look cleaner than you, Amara," Kenna would add, and they would both erupt in cruel laughter. Never responded. Instead, solace in the small garden behind their compound, where she grew sweet yams, colorful flowers, talking eyes as if they were her only friends. One day, a royal messenger arrived in the village square, his voice booming like a drum. "Here, the Prince Aid, the heir to our, is seeking a wife. A grand festival will be held at the royal palace in 3 days' time. All eligible maidens needed to attend." The news sent a jolt of excitement through the village, catching the prince's eye. Zola and Kenna were beside themselves with glee. "We'll surely choose one of us," Zola declared, practicing her most charming smile in a Polish gore. "We need new silk, the finest from the market." Kenna demanded, whether eager to see one of her daughters, spared no expense. Amara's secret hope. She, too, dreamed of going to the not to win the prince, but just to experience a night of music, dancing, and joy, away from her dreary life. Timidly, Mother Shan, her, "May I?" Her stepmother and stepsister stared at her as if she had grown a second head, then burst into laughter. "You?" Her stepmother scoffed. "Family. Your place is here, scrubbing the floors and tending the fire." Zola and Kenna chimed in. "The prince would faint at the sight of you." Little Ash girl. Defeated, Amara retreated to her garden, tears streaming down her dusty cheeks. She felt a profound sadness, a loneliness into her very bones. A gentle voice startled her. Why do you cry?" Amara looked up to see an old woman with kind eyes, her face etched with the wisdom of many years. "Me the greatest treasure of all," Prince Adebayo declared, his voice resonating across silent courtyard. Other maidens have brought me things that can be bought with gold or crafted by hand. But you have brought me a gift, can only be grown love. You've shown me yourself, a heart of pure gold, caught from her hands, and then, to the utter shock of everyone, he took her hand in his. He turned to face the crowd. Chidema, and Ebel's face is frozen in disbelief. I have found my queen, the prince announced. I have found the heart I have been searching for. A thunderous erupted from the people. Adana, the poor orphan girl, was chosen by the prince, not for riches